Morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. It's the middle of the night. You want to just list something. That's okay too. I have my cup of coffee. Found a little bit of eggnog in clearance on the grocery store. It's good till February, according to the Best Buy date, so still tastes me. And as we've discussed before, eggnog sometimes can be a potent potable and sometimes is not a potent potable. And I will leave it to your imagination whether I am having something potent or just a cup of coffee with a little bit of creamer in it. But it's tasty. Anyway, in my other hand, I am holding a quarter, a nickel, and 4 pennies, which is a lot harder to pick up than you'd think. So 34 cents. 34 cents that I found in various parking lots over the last week. I teased a little bit about this when we were talking about this week's episode last week, that I would be talking about 34 cents found in a parking lot. Why does 34 cents found in a parking lot matter? What is 34 cents really good for anymore? Those of us of a certain age remember when 34 cents would actually buy you something. I remember going to the convenience store on the corner with a quarter to get a very special soda and candy bar, because we all know the caffeine in a soda canceled out the candy bar. At least that was the dieting logic of the 70s. Don't listen to the 70s for dieting advice. That's also when the cabbage diet was big. So you might not want to listen to that. But in the 70s, I thought it sounded pretty good. In the 80s, we had the myth that if you ate celery, you actually burned more calories than you consumed. I don't know if that's true, but I'm inclined to disbelieve it. I don't know. Anyway, 34 cents. Now, again, when I was a kid, 34 cents, that little quarter that I found, which, by the way, that is the holy grail to find a quarter. I mean, finding pennies is easy, right? But a quarter, not very common. That quarter would have bought a candy bar and a soda. Now, even the barista will be snobbish if you drop a quarter in the tip box, right? So, what's that quarter good for? Also, when we were kids, remember there was bazooka bubblegum? Bazooka bubblegum, for those of you that don't remember it, were individually wrapped squares of bubblegum about the size of a small postage stamp that were in a container at the end of the cash register, conveyor belt, or just the end of the counter there. When I was a kid, they were 2 cents each. So for this 34 cents, I could have had half a month's supply of bubblegum, because that was another health food back then. And we enjoyed chewing bubblegum until our jaws hurt. And I wish I'd known back then that you should use ice to get gum out of your hair. Enough said on that subject. But 34 cents, finding 34 cents. Why does it excite me? And you know what? The humble little penny, this dirty little penny that I found, excites me in some ways more than that holy grail of a quarter, which actually has some value. And there are a couple different reasons. One, it is said, and I'm inclined to believe it's true, that the metal value of the copper in a penny is actually greater than the economic value of a penny, which is kind of weird if you think about it that way. So, one, it has value. And of course, for all of us that grew up having watched maybe the movie Grease one too many times, try seven in the theaters the year it came out, because that was before we had DVD players and VCRs and all that. So I had to go to the movie theater repeatedly. And yes, I had the songbook. And yes, I had memorized all of the movie Grease. And I do enjoy it still to this day. Sorry, I digress again. I do that. But there's so many memories to share. And I'm hoping you're on this journey with me. And maybe you had similar experiences. And if you didn't, just stay on for the ride, because I'll get to a point sooner or later. So, in the movie Grease is a pivotal plot point that a penny is found on the ground. And one of the pink ladies says, "Find a penny, pick it up. All day long, you'll have good luck." Well, I had so incorporated that into my vocabulary that I didn't even realize it came from the movie Grease until one of my friends caught me saying it when I was picking up a penny and said, "Oh, so you watched the movie Grease too?" Yep. So I guess that's where most of us picked up that expression. And it is said if it's heads up, it's better luck. But you know what? I still consider finding a penny finding a penny. And again, why do I get so excited? Yes, it has some value. If you accumulate enough of them, I asked a friend of mine who does financial counseling, if I started with $100 and then invested this 34 cents every day for 10 years, how much would I have at the end of 10 years? She said, assuming an 8% rate of return, have about 2,000 in today's dollar value, which unfortunately in 10 years might not be worth the same amount, but we can keep our fingers crossed, right? I'm not going to get into finance here. Not at all. But 34 cents every day for 10 years. What would you do with $2,000 if I handed it to you today? What could you do if someone handed you $2,000 today? Just a thought. So little investments, little blessings. And that's what I consider finding change. It was funny that week that I discovered 34 cents worth of change. I saw somebody else post online picture of a whole bunch of change and saying, do you get excited when you find change? I consider them blessings. And I went, yes, that's it. I'm not the only one. Thank goodness. So then I started thinking about how many other little blessings do we maybe overlook? You know, a lot of people won't go out of their way to look for that penny or to bend over and pick it up. Now, in Arizona, there is some reality to that because if it is the middle of the summer and that pavement is hot enough to cook an egg, if you reach down with your bare hand and pick up that penny, you could actually get burned. So you have to be careful when picking up in Arizona. It's more than worrying about bending your back too much. But again, I do yoga. The bending over to pick up the change is actually a continuation of my yoga practice, and I get profitably rewarded for it. Granted, 1 penny at a time, but 100 pennies makes $1, 1,000 pennies, $10. Do the math. If you find enough pennies in your life, you've found a lot of money. So little blessings. Now, granted, since that 34 cents came into my life last week, I haven't found any more change, and I do find myself looking for it. That's also kind of like blessings or gratitude. If you are looking for blessings, you're going to find them. Not every day. And if you judge yourself by today wasn't a good day because I didn't have any blessings, well, then you're judging yourself too harshly. If you are judging yourself because you didn't have any blessings on any particular day, you're being too hard on yourself because we all have good days and bad days. This week has been a little challenging, let us say. There have been some things that have really pissed me off and gotten me down. And I think it's important that you know that I'm not always really happy and things aren't always really good for me. There have been some frustrations this past week, even though my life is quite good. There was one day I was just so sad. It was like somebody pulled the covers out from under me and I couldn't find my way back up again. I called it an undertow. And if you've ever been to the beach, you've seen those signs for undertow. And that's a current of water that is coming from the underneath that can actually pull you off your center of gravity. It can actually take you out to sea. It's quite terrifying. And I'm very grateful that I've never been caught in that because I don't consider myself a good swimmer. But here's the flip side. You shouldn't fight the undertow. You need to flow with it until you get out to where it stops pulling you and then swim around again. At least I think that's what the advice was. I should read up on that before I go to the ocean. Anyway, if you have an answer, please let me know because we want to put out the best information, right? Anyway, so I've had this undertow of sadness. It was really hard to look for the blessings that day. And take a pass when you feel that way. But if you feel like that for more than a day or two, and you've reached out to friends and you can't quite get through it, it's time to get professional help. Trust me, it's okay. It's okay to ask for help, but always be looking for the blessings because that will help you circumvent that undertow. It'll help you avoid those days. They'll still happen, but if you're looking for the blessings, and maybe if you keep those pennies you found on the counter for a little while, you'll be thinking about how many wonderful things do happen. I found a penny today. Maybe I'll find one tomorrow, or maybe it'll be next week. But I know there will be more blessings, strangely, because a lot of people walk right by them. Hear me again. A lot of people walk right by these blessings. Those pennies were probably sitting there for a while before I found them. Strangely, 4 pennies that I found out of the course of about 3-4 days in the same parking lot in the same space. That tells me it's highly probable they were all dropped at the same time and they just came into my view because I was walking through parked cars on different days. Other people had been walking right by those pennies. They'd been missing what was right in front of them, or they were, I hate to say it, too lazy to pick them up. Is there another word than lazy? Maybe they weren't physically able. Maybe they were lazy. Maybe they were going, I don't need a penny. What difference is a penny going to make in my life? Remember, 34 cents a day for 10 years starting with $100 at 8% interest, $2,000 at the end of the 10 years. So don't pass up on those little things. Don't sneer at the little blessings, because sometimes that is what it's really all about. It's not about the end goal. It's about each little blessing. It's about each little moment that made you smile. It's about the fact that when you were in a better place, you put other people in a better place. How does that sound? So, are we passing up on those little blessings? Are we passing up on those friends that maybe aren't the person who has hours and hours of time for you on a regular basis? We all love that friend who you can pop into their house whenever and you see each other every day and you communicate every day. Those are great friends. But there are other friends of value, and they may not be seem like much more than that penny, but their accumulated value is fabulous. Last week, I went to a ladies' luncheon on that day when I was experiencing Undertow. You know what? I almost didn't go. I thought about not going. I wasn't ready to be social. I wasn't ready to talk to people. I really didn't even want to get dressed that morning. But I put on a bright and colorful top and a pair of shiny earrings and a little bit of lipstick. Sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it. I got myself to that luncheon. I walked in the room thinking, I don't really want to talk to anybody. Now, this is a room full of women. These are all women who are achievers. They're great energy. It's amazing to be around them. And here I was dragging my feet to get in there, like that person who's loath to bend over and pick up the penny, right? And I got in there, and the first person I talked to, she's a casual acquaintance. We're friends on Facebook. We don't see each other particularly often, but we always have a smile. And I decided when she asked me how I was feeling to be a little bit honest. And I told her I was kind of having a bummer day. I wasn't in my best place and I almost didn't come today. And she looked at me and smiled. She said, Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that, because you know what? Watching your social media always brightens my day. And I want to thank you for that. Talk about finding a penny. We haven't talked again since that luncheon. I think I might have sent her a message saying we need to do lunch sometime, but it's been a busy week. And here's this person who I didn't know had great value in my life, who I didn't know I would be rewarded by bending over to pick up a penny. But I was honest with her, not in a depressing way, just in a, well, I'm glad I'm here, but maybe I'm not my usual self way. And she gave me something that helped restore my soul. Now, was I immediately better? No. It was kind of a long luncheon because part of me was ready to go home from the moment I got in my car to go there. But I stayed and I had a very positive experience. And I talked to some wonderful women who I'd never met before. And I talked to some old acquaintances that I hadn't seen in a while. And it was good for me. Not perfect, not entirely restorative, but it helped me reset my brain a little bit and recognize that what I normally do has value. So investing one penny, one nickel, one quarter at a time, looking for those blessings. Because you know what? If you just hide, and I've told you it's okay to have a blanket fort day because I need them too. But if you start living in that blanket fort, if you become a hermit, if you are not connected to others, you're never going to find those blessings. You need to go out and look for the blessings. She says, clinging to that penny and thinking about its value, because it is just a penny. On its own, it buys you nothing. On its own, it is worth more for the metal that was used to mint it than the face value that is written on the penny. That's like a lot of things in life, right? So relationships, friend relationships, romantic relationships, roommate relationships, whatever it might be. And sometimes our romantic relationships are also our roommate relationships, because something about our species says that when we are in a relationship, we should live with the person that we adore, and we should adore the person we live with. And for those of you who know my story, know that I'm on my third husband, and I know that we don't always adore the person we're living with, and we don't always adore the person we love. And we need to remember why we fell in love in the first place. Always a challenge, isn't it? So here we are in a romantic relationship. And this is what I tell people. This is why my husband will forever be my dragon slayer. I know, I'm a romantic, right? There was one night I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Actually, I do that a lot. I'm over 50. I'm postmenopausal. If you're with me, let me hear you say, yeah, me too. But anyway, on this particular night when I was going to the bathroom, there was a cockroach in the bathroom between me and the toilet. Now, there are other toilets in the condo that we were living in at the time, but I didn't want that cockroach in my bathroom, right next to my bedroom. So I went back, tip, 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 because I'm a wuss about bugs. I'm going to admit this publicly. I don't like bugs, don't like creepy crawlies. Even when they're behind glass, it freaks me out. But I love scarabs. So don't try and understand. Scarabs are those Egyptian jewelry pieces with bugs on them. Love those things. Anyway, the bug, the cockroach in the bathroom, waking up my husband. I know, not a proud moment, but it had to be dealt with. Tap, tap, tap. Honey, there's a cockroach between me and the toilet. Can you help me with that? This man. And this is the reason we're still married, because I can overlook a lot, because he did this. He got out of bed. He went tip, 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 dealt with it. I heard the toilet flush, knew it was gone. Doot, 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 doot. He comes back, doesn't say a word. Now there is the real magic, because my first two husbands would have wanted to berate me for waking them, or wanted praise for their heroic efforts. Now I have continued to praise my husband for that heroic effort, which was in excess of 5 years ago, because it was in the condo, and I know it's before we moved into this house, probably 6 or 7 years ago. I have told this story so often of why he is the man of my dreams, because he killed a cockroach in the middle of the night and didn't complain about it. Just rolled over, went back to sleep. That is a true hero. So our relationships, that cockroach, that was a big old penny that he picked up. It was a blessing to me. It was a blessing to him. And it was invested wisely, because I still remember his heroism and kindness in dealing with something that I am totally freaked out by. And yet he did it. So you never know where you're going to find a penny, where you're going to find a blessing, where your life is going to be improved by the smallest action. So this week, as you go out into the world, look for the pennies, look for the blessings, listen for those things that are going to have a subtle impact on your life. Find ways to be yourself and invest in yourself by looking for the blessings. If you never look around, you're not going to find the pennies. You're not going to find the blessings. If you're always focused on this next thing ahead and charging forward, you might miss out on what's right there, right now. Last week I said, don't chase happiness. Happiness is the attitude with which you travel, quoting my yoga instructor. Have you been doing that? Have you been listening for the positive things? Have you been smiling within yourself? Are you loving yourself? Just a thought. You need those blessings. I got lost there. Got lost in my thought because I got distracted by my phone. Oh, yeah. Talk about things that keep you from missing blessings. If you're playing with your phone, you're not focusing on what's going on around you. And it's real easy to do because the phone is infinitely interesting. That's how I got my friend to answer the question of if I invested 34 cents a day over 10 years, starting with only $100 and then adding 34 cents a day, what would I have? God bless her. She got back to me really quickly too. So the phone can be a time suck, can be an energy suck. It takes you away from the people around you. So I try and make sure if I'm looking at my phone, I'm at least discussing it with the people around me. I'm not just getting sucked in. Like we used to do with the newspaper or a magazine. Hey, I'm reading an interesting article on whatever. Did you know that if you have those discussions with the people around you about what you're seeing on your phone, at least you're drawing them in. Oh, I just got a message from my friend and she's coming to visit. I'm really excited to see her. Wow, you should meet my friend too. She's fabulous. So don't let that phone rob you of your ability to look for pennies, look for blessings, and make sure you acknowledge the blessings in your life, because it's so important to be looking for them. Sometimes they'll land in your lap, but more often than not, you have to bend down and pick them up. And if it's summer in Arizona, make sure you have an oven mitt or something so you don't hurt yourself. Just saying. Bob's I'm wearing a turtleneck. It is not summer in Arizona, so feel free to pick up change this time of year. Oh my goodness, what a week. I look forward to talking to you next week. And next week, not sure where we're going to go, but it might be a bit more spicy. Had an interesting discussion about a new Netflix series. Well, maybe it's not new. It's new to me the other day with some friends at a party. And turned out it was a very enlivening conversation. So maybe we will talk about personal space and intimacy next week. There's a heck of a teaser. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until then, live a life full of wonder and have a wonderful day.